Hello, and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. Please remember to like and subscribe to get new episodes delivered to your feed each week. I'm your host, Steve Plumb, Editor-in-Chief for SME Media. I'm joined today by two of my SME colleagues, Brett Connor and Tim Wilson. Brett is Chief Manufacturing Officer, and Tim is the Director of Technology, Innovation, and Strategy. Welcome to the program to you both.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
So, Brett, you've been on a few times before, and Tim, I think this is your first appearance, but I thought it would be good to have both of you on today, being that all three of us recently attended the North American Research Conference, or NAMRC for short, at Penn State University in mid-June. It was the 54th iteration of the show. Have both of you been to the event in the past, or was it the first time for either of you?
It was actually the first time for me.
All right.
Yeah, and this is my second time.
Being that you're new to the show and in your relatively new roles at SME, what were some of the highlights for both of you?
Well, for me, I think it was a great opportunity to be at really what is North America's premier research conference, where the people who are coming to present here are coming to present pedigreed research. Vast majority of the presentations and even posters will become papers in our research journals. So I think it was just a great opportunity to come and be at the event. In my past life, I've been one of the people who've been presenting at conferences and either myself or my students. And so it's kind of nice to be on this side of the fence in some ways. But also you get to see kind of all the action that's happening throughout the event. So I think it was a great opportunity, and I was really impressed to see or just a swath of people throughout the manufacturing ecosystem that joined us.
Yeah, and I would echo the same thing. I think I've just been impressed by, the intellectual prowess that happens there and the passion that comes out of that, both from the academic side as well as the industry, as well as what's happening on the federal and state levels. It was just really exciting to see just the passion for moving manufacturing and all its components, whether that's the process or the systems or the people and that. And I think that make it really exciting. I think what also hit me too is just not only the presence in North America, but this I think goes across like 6 continents in terms of the submissions that are there. So it's really kind of like the epicenter of what's happening in manufacturing innovation. And just to be a part of that was really, truly an honor and excitement.
Yeah, it really is a tight-knit community, too. I think this is my third event, and just seeing some of the familiar faces back there, whether it's the judges, some of the NAMRC board, or even a few of the people that were nominated for awards this year had been repeat people from the past. And of course, it was hosted at Penn State, which did a great job of doing so. But how important is it to involve universities in these types of events to ensure industry and academia are in sync in developing the next generation of technologies and workforce?
Yeah, I think it's exceptionally important for a variety of ways. First of all, the vast majority of the presenters here are going to be people who are working on master's or PhD degrees. Some undergraduate, though, and great presentations from them too as well. But they're learning, technical depth as well as scientific method, being able to present and communicate at a technical detail, all of which are very important for us to advance manufacturing. That's part of the workforce equation that exists, the talent that's required to deploy manufacturing and especially advanced manufacturing technologies. So to maintain competitiveness and resiliency requires these people and the research that they're doing. The research that they're doing, even at a basic and fundamental level, can translate into advancements in manufacturing technologies. And while some of those may take many years to occur in this day and age, with just the acceleration around computational power and so forth, things are happening much faster than before. So again, this is also required to plant those seeds of technology, advanced technologies that'll maintain competitiveness and grow the manufacturing sector and ensure resiliency. So this is absolutely fundamental here. But an interesting thing about this year is that NAMRC 54 had the most number of industry people that we've had ever. I think there were 180 industry attendees. So this allows us to build connection between that university research world and industry. Of course, also to hear some industry research as well being presented here. And I think it's important too to look at the opportunity for translational research where universities can work directly with industry and also transition technologies to industry as well. So overall, this is a very important event from the standpoint of being able to share and advance research and technologies, but also grow that portion of the manufacturing talent base that helps us have the cutting edge from a technology standpoint.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think, whether it's the student pipeline or the faculty pipeline and really kind of building out what are some of the skills needed to address some of these technologies started to really resonate with me. I think what was interesting in attending some of the sessions was just the vast number of kind of workforce or human related pieces that were part of those presentations. And I like how I kind of see how in the past where we see like a technology being implemented and the human factor that come with it often lags, I feel like it's starting to narrow the gap in some of these, whether that was the incorporation of workforce development within their sessions or just questions that were coming out from the audience of what is the need in the workforce side was really, really prevalent. And so I think that was really something that by bringing everyone together, that discussion really kind of accumulated on those specific topics.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that this was the most ever industry people at the show, which leads me to the next question, which you kind of both addressed. But being that NAMRC had traditionally been focused on advanced research, but there seems to be a narrowing of time to market and having a more of a consumer type of a pace, product development pace to it. What's being done, in the future for NAMRC to really address that and bring together, advanced research with real world applications or near term applications?
Yeah, I think I think this is really this year really set the tone for where I see increasing levels of industry participation in the event. There was opportunities for industry communications, which are a different type of presentation at the event. There's opportunities on the publication side. We strive at this event to have high pedigree research, and kudos to the NAMRI board of directors and the organizers and the reviewers to allow that to happen. Manufacturing letters is a great outlet for some of the industry led research from a journal standpoint. Um, so yeah, kudos to Penn State for helping us drive industry participation here. And I think there's a lot of great lessons to learn that'll be applied to NAMRC 55 next year to draw in those industry participation. There were exhibit areas for industry and universities to engage, in the hallway. But the other thing that was really interesting here that ties us to industry, but through a government perspective, was strong participation from the Department of Energy this year, with them conducting several sessions and workshops and simulation and model and computational kind of hands-on workshop, and even their opportunity that they took for the strategy that they are creating right now, a national strategy for AI in manufacturing that they enabled people at the event to provide inputs to through a special guided Q&A session that they had. So I think that there's this event is evolving more to address those needs from the industry standpoint into transition to technologies.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that too. And I see some of the things that came out from the industry side was how do we work together to really break that time the market barrier that we're talking. Like, how do we start to, as a community, address some of those issues? And that seemed to resonate across a lot of the sessions, whether it was like pilot to production when we're talking about AI, or Matt Draper coming from the top of the stage from IBAS saying, look, we have to flip the script. We have to be able to move faster together. And I only think through it, opportunities like NAMRC are bringing us all together and understand what are those bottlenecks, how do we solve them together, how do we move faster in this. It's only going to to start to create solutions that can move forward, because as the manufacturing technology changes so rapidly, the only way to do this is through vast number of eyes and vast number of a community kind of addressing it.
Yeah, Brian, you touched on a couple of points, with the involvement with the DOE. I think a lot of the attendees had a chance to interact and meet with the department officials, and one of the keynoters was from the DOE on the critical mineral side. A new office that I hadn't even wasn't aware of. But it was fascinating just listening to that and learning a little bit more about what was going on with rare earths and other critical minerals, and the importance of getting them in the U.S. and having domestic sources for that. You also touched on AI, which was a key theme throughout the conference, not surprisingly. And Tim, I know you hosted or moderated a panel discussion on that. What was that like?
It was exciting. It was a great opportunity. Felt very honored to be able to lead that, especially with the colleagues that were there on our panel from GM Research and GE Aerospace and Rockwell and Arctos and some other participants that are focusing on the small and medium manufacturers. I think what it's kind of showed me is, yes, AI is relevant everywhere, and throughout the sessions, it's like machine learning, whether it was in predictive maintenance or digital twinning, like it was there, and it's a topic that is very relevant and very exciting. I think we talked about a lot of the critical research gaps there, and some of the things really kind of stood out to me of, this was industry members really trying to tell our research community what to focus on, and whether it was like understanding where some of these models focus in closed loop areas, or how to understand the models being used in specific areas within the manufacturing process, were all things that stood out. How do we empower our small and medium manufacturers to start this process and to meet them where they are and to scale together, was really, really relevant that came out of this. And I just saw, like when they talked about the students and like what to do in that, like how to understand creating a research problem in a true kind of production world. And it only comes from our industry really guiding our academic and research partners in that. So the collaboration piece is really what stood out to me in some of that.
And one of the sessions I think all three of us were in, at least at one time, was not only standing room only, but standing hall only, peeking into the session. I thought they were going to have to use AI to figure out a way to get us all involved there. But some great discussion there, and also a big announcement regarding the journals next year, which are collaborating on a joint AI issue. How exciting is that?
Yeah, it's great because that's really the first time that we've had a chance to have a special issue across all three of our journals. The Journal of Manufacturing Systems, Journal of Manufacturing Processes, and Manufacturing Letters. And this special edition is targeted, as you mentioned, on AI. It's the topic is AI in manufacturing from theories to applications, which will give us the opportunity to really, allow us to have a range of applicability from the more basic and fundamental research to getting into more advanced research directly working with industry as well. So between the types of journals, the topics from processes to systems to letters and application space, I think that there is this is going to be a tremendous opportunity, and more information will be coming out about this soon. But basically, the submissions will open around the beginning of August and will extend to the end of October. So we're looking forward to that. If you're a researcher, whether you're in government industry or academia, and this is a topic that's important to you that you're conducting research in, um, this is a great opportunity for you to submit a paper to the special edition.
And Tim, you may disagree with this, but it's not all about AI, even though it seems like it sometimes. What were some of the other key technologies and trends that stood out at the conference?
Well, you're right. It is not all about AI for sure, but and being AI is often a thread kind of in a lot of these areas. But I thought it was some really interesting topics that came on. I saw the presence more of quantum in some of these areas that was emerging, and I think that's something for us to track. Because AI at the end of the day can even empower that technology as it's kind of combined together. The aspect of in-space manufacturing I thought was really, really interesting that was being promoted. And, I see kind of that we talk about frontier models in AI, we're talking about going to the frontier in terms of manufacturing and just understanding, what are some of the implications for that. But those are some of the two areas that really stood out to me. I know there's a lot of other kind of technologies coming out, but those kind of resonated with me. So.
Yeah, from my standpoint, additive manufacturing continues to be strong at this event, and you can see new materials and research into new materials or greater depth of materials knowledge and process knowledge. AI, of course, working alongside AM is you saw a fair bit of that there. I also want to point out smart manufacturing as well, which is a critical enabler for AI in manufacturing. And so there was some great sessions there on around AI. Some things in materials and critical minerals included there, but along with the technology, and I think we kind of mentioned this before, but the session on manufacturing education, and that does it's where technology and talent intersect, which is core to SME. But that session has had growth year over year, and good turned out to be a very very good session. So those are some of the highlights that I had.
And of course, it wouldn't be NAMRC without the awards, several of which were announced there, including the Blue Sky Award, which recognizes transformative ideas that address grand challenges in manufacturing. The winner this year was from a team of researchers from the University of Pittsburgh, Kansas State, and the University of Houston, who were selected by judges after presentations from five finalists around the world. Brett, what was it like to be part of that process?
Yeah, so the Blue Sky competition is an excellent activity that we do, and it's sponsored by NSF, and it allows us to kind of get into that open space, the white space of what are the new ideas that could really reshape manufacturing, and gets into things like quantum and biomanufacturing and in space manufacturing and circular economy from from design to recycle and the human element and really just how these different threads evolve and so forth. Truly creative ideas that come up from leading researchers and having a chance to hear those speakers come in and talk. And it's it is there are great ideas in the whole thing. And you of course pointed out the winner this year who is presenting research on basically using protein as a building block, if you will, for manufacturing. And so yeah, these are ideas that I talked about this earlier, but trying to the technical edge, the cutting edge, that allows us to maintain competitiveness and resiliency. And that does include looking at these kind of high risk but high payoff ideas that um, stretch beyond kind of the narrow focus that we do have to have in research events like this and in a particular technical topic area, but then looking at how technology can be deployed in a very strategic way that could fundamentally change society. Those are the things we're really seeking out here, and we had 5 presentations, 5 great ideas this year, we'll be looking forward to that again next year at NAMRC 55 and seeing those ideas. So we had a great panel of judges, by the way, here. It was terrific, a cross cut of several government agencies as well as industry that joined us for the judging. And without them, this event wouldn't have been possible, as well as the support from the SME team to put that competition together.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to interview each of the finalists and learn a lot more about their subjects. But I think what was even more useful was hearing the questions from the judges following the presentations and the follow up and how the panelists answered those. So I thought it was a really good format. Um, so now that you both had a chance to experience NAMREC, were the takeaways and how does the event inform you and help prioritize what some of your initiatives will be for the next year or so?
I mean, for me, I think it gives a pulse as to the state of research in the United States, especially the research, you know, the research coming from various institutions. By the way, there were research papers here that came from the government world as well, from government national laboratories and so forth, and want to note those too. But I think it's an opportunity to get a sense as to where it's going. In the U.S. and quite frankly beyond as well. We had international papers. We had presenters from Europe, presenters from Asia, across the Americas, Africa, so forth. I think Tim mentioned submissions from 6 continents. It's even though it's North American centric, it is a global event. But we do get a sense as to the research activities, also the energy of the community as well, from an event like this. It's certainly informing. There's so much good work that comes out of here, and I think gives us a sense in terms of the trends that are happening. But also, I think it's interesting to also see the industry partners and the government partners who are there as well, who are attending, and getting a sense for their appetite for adopting these technologies and transitioning them. So overall, it's a very good event. And while there's a lot of things that inform us as SMB, I think it informs the entire community as well. And that's why we're excited that this year was an event that had, I think, another record-breaking crowd. 900 plus people there at the event. We'll probably get final numbers. I mean, I will get final numbers here soon, but over 900 people here at this event, and we're expecting good things for next year too.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I kind of look at it as just similar to bet, whether it's a pulse or a compass. It really kind of guides, how as SME we can lift up the manufacturing community and all of our stakeholders, right? And Brett mentioned the translational research side. So on my end, everything is not AI, but AI is a big component to it. But when you have technologies like this that move so quickly, right? How do we as a community capture it together and translate it into various stakeholders? And I don't think anyone is positioned like SME to do that, right? And so as we work with a community like NAMRC, we have that leading research that comes out, and we have a community of experts in that area too that we can lean on to say, how do we help our stakeholders? That could be in our education stakeholders, it could be our workforce stakeholders, it could be our industry stakeholders, or as Brett mentioned too, our governmental partners as well. And so really, I think, that's kind of how I see NAMRC is what, not just this year, but just historically, what it's built up and that reputation it's going to continue to build upon.
Exactly. Every year kind of builds on each other. And next year is at Oregon State University, and AMRIC 55 is planning already underway for that.
Well, planning has been underway for that, so that cycle starts well before the prior year's NAMRC. So yeah, the Oregon State team is working with SME, of course, our partners over on the MSEC side with ASME, and so yeah, that planning is well underway. Of course, they're going to incorporate lessons learned and best practices from this event. As we're dealing with engineers here, so continuous improvement is always important. So they're applying that. But yeah, that planning is well underway for next year's event.
Yeah, definitely look forward to that. And Brett and Tim, thanks again for joining us today. It's always a pleasure talking with you both and learning more about these emerging technologies. Where can listeners go to learn more about our latest initiatives?
Well, for NAMRC, go to namric.sme.org for updates. And in the not too distant future here, you will be seeing NAMRC 55 appear. So stay tuned for that.
And to learn more about the latest manufacturing trends and hear more of our podcasts, visit advancedmanufacturing.org and be sure to like and subscribe to our feed.